streaming live. And let me just get that going on right there. Here we go. Clubhouse chatter continues. Here's Norm Ordez.
That's right. We're back and rolling for another segment here this morning, this Sunday morning. Rainy, windy up here outside of Amity, Oregon, up here in wine country. So my next guest has one name. He doesn't go by Norm Ordez. He goes by Chop. He has been known as Pork Chop, but now he just goes by Chop, and he has been a Portland radio mainstay since 1997. Producer Brian and I were kind of kicking it around that you're really a legend in Portland radio.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know about that, guys. Come on, legend? No.
I've been listening to you for quite a while.
Look, if you want to call me a legend, that's cool, but I will question your integrity after that.
And I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, hey, thanks for having me on, dude.
Man, it's been a long time. You and I have chatted for quite a while about doing stuff, and so I've always invited you out to Salem Kaiser to come and partake of the World Series trophy and whatnot. And like I said, I've listened to you, going back to your KUFO days and whatnot, and now here you are on 750 The Game. Chop,
yeah,
man.
Totally jacked. We're having a lot of fun over on The Game, and the thing about it is you get to talk sports for a living, and you get to do what you do. You're talking baseball, and it brings us around to, February, is really, for all intents and purposes, over, and winter is pretty much over, which means spring, which means baseball, and totally gassed, man. Totally jacked for the new season. A little concerned. I'm a Halos guy,
right?
So I'm a little bit concerned with not only the roster, but pretty much their depth in the farm system. They've gutted it. They've made some shady moves that didn't pan out. So it just brings up a lot of talk, a lot of spring training discussion, and it's one of my favorite times of the year.
It is, obviously it is my favorite time of the year. You got the spring, and what's not to like about the spring? You got new flowers blooming, you got buds on the trees, you got the promise of warmer weather coming, and you've got baseball. Spring training games kick off on Tuesday. Man, here we are. It's that time of year.
Yeah, and do you go to Florida or Arizona to partake in any spring training activity, or do you just kind of, watch it on TV, listen to it on the radio, follow it on the web and in the newspapers, and wait till baseball starts here locally?
When I was working with the Giants and the Diamondbacks, I used to go to Arizona, and so, but I haven't done that, and it's probably been maybe 8-9 years now since I've been to spring training. Haven't been to Florida, haven't done the Florida scene. I've got an aunt and uncle. My wife has an aunt and uncle that lives nearby, and so we partake of teams there, and that is one of my goals, is to make it to Florida so I can say I've gone to spring training. But man, I haven't been in like 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, spring training, I grew up I'm from Oregon, but I left when I was about 11 in 1982 and moved to a little town right outside of Tampa called Dunedin, Florida, which happens to be the spring training home of the Blue Jays.
Yep.
And I literally lived, I'm not kidding, a 10-minute bicycle ride, a BMX bike, mind you, not even a 10-speed. A BMX 10-minute ride from Grant Field, which was where the Toronto Blue Jays played. And I remember, back then, no one really gave a rip, media-wise, about covering spring training.
Yep.
And there was, me and friends found a spot in the fence where we were able to lift the fence up, and we would be able to climb under the fence and get into spring training games for free. And I'm talking like 83, 84, 85. And I just remember, the sunshine, the seasons are changing, and you get great baseball. Nolan Ryan when he was with the Astros, Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt when they were with the Phillies, the Dodgers, Pedro Guerrero, Tommy Lasorda was managing. I mean, it was just incredible, and I'll never forget, those days. And I mean, I played baseball for like 7-8 years, so that was really my go-to sport. Never experienced Arizona, but now with media, it's really become a big deal, spring training. I mean, people plan vacations around it.
Yep.
The games are now broadcast on network television. It's a spectacle now.
Well, I remember living in Palm Springs in 88, 89. Palm Springs Angel Stadium had the Angels. The Angels would come to Palm Springs for half their spring training. And so my parents used to manage this elderly apartment complex right across the street. So I would go and be part of the Angel spring training. We're talking Bob Boone, Jim Abbott, Brian Downing, Bobby Grich, some of the later guys. And I remember, the Oakland days rolling through with McGuire and Canseco and whatnot. And I would go 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd be there watching them, the pitchers take PFPs and whatnot. And then at the end of the day, sitting in the bleachers with Jim Abbott drinking beers, and
yeah, for sure.
It was awesome, and you paid, well, sometimes I paid, sometimes I didn't, but at the most $8 for a ticket, and you'd get to hang out at the ballpark all day.
Yeah, and it's amazing how quickly ESPNs and network television and Major League Baseball caught on to the opportunity that, hey, you know what, they may be able to market this and utilize it and pitch it as a destination point for vacationers. And spring training is what it is now. I mean, it's crazy for sure, but it's still a lot of fun.
If you like the spring training deal, I will give you this nugget. Save your money and go to, well, if you want to catch the major leaguers, spring training is the way to go. But if you want to catch the up-and-coming major leaguers, the top prospects, go to the Arizona Fall League. And you can, 700-800 people in the stands to watch all these teams' top prospects. That's a pretty good deal.
Really? So when does that take place?
It usually takes place, towards the middle end of September, beginning of October.
Oh, okay.
And then it runs until, early December. So like right after Thanksgiving. And so I think they play close to 30 games. And so, there's 4 or 5 teams, and each team has, 5 or 6 major league teams available. And so they send their AA, AAA prospects. Every once in a while you'll get a high A prospect, but it's a pretty cool deal. So Arizona Fall League is the way to go if you want to catch, something pretty cool. That's, you catch all the young bucks coming through.
And I think we're, somewhat lucky to have a couple of, summer ball league teams, short season A. Look, I don't know the actual official name of the Hillsborough Hops League and the Kaiser team, but the Salem Kaiser Volcanoes. What is it?
It's the Northwest League.
The Northwest League. I'm sorry, but there is like it's not triple or double A. It's not even single A. It's like short season summer A ball or something like that.
Right. It's short season A, and so for Hillsborough and Salem Kaiser, it is the second rung up in the ladder in your professional career. So both the Diamondbacks who are in Hillsborough and the Giants who are in Salem Kaiser, they both have an Arizona Summer League team, and so that is where you basically go. So Hillsborough and Salem Kaiser, that's where, like, if you were drafted out of college, you would go to. If you were drafted out of high school, then you'd go to the Arizona affiliate and then work your way up. And so, but yeah, decent baseball being played, Dansby Swanson played in Hillsborough this last season, and he's got a shot of making the Atlanta Braves roster this year. He could possibly be their starting shortstop.
And I was fortunate enough. I did catch a couple Hops games this past season, and I saw Dansby play during, it was I want to say the Portland Maverick celebratory throwback game.
Yes.
Where they all wore old school Portland Mavericks unis, and they brought out some of the players and, celebrated what they had accomplished. But yeah, you can tell watching Dansby up close and in person that, he's got all the tools of the trade, so to speak, to, not only make it to the major league level, but possibly have some success as well. And you look at the Braves, man. What a class organization, first off.
Yep.
When I look at the Braves, I see it done the right way from top all the way to the bottom. They'll have a few lean years, but they always seem to make the right personnel decisions, and their farm system is always well stocked. And if I'm not mistaken, it's one of the best, and they are projected, I believe, to kind of be a player when it comes to postseason action.
Yeah, they're opening up a new stadium next year, I believe, and so I think this year is going to be kind of the last of the lean years for them. But they are primed, with like I said, their minor league system. I don't necessarily look at them to be a playoff team out of the National League East. Of course, you got the Mets and you've got the Marlins and the Nationals. But next year, watch out. Hey.
Yeah, and hey, look, you talk about the Marlins. How funny. Have you seen recent pictures of Barry Bonds?
I did.
He seems to be a little thin these days.
Barry's head shrunk.
Yes.
No joke. So last year about this time, a buddy of mine, I'm not going to name any names, but he's with the Giants, and Barry did a spring training assignment with the Giants, and his hat size, he sends me this message telling me that Barry's head shrunk like 2 sizes. And so, when he was playing with the Giants, his head size was up around an 8. I mean, it was a big melon, big dome. But yeah, now that he's done playing, he's bike riding and whatnot, and not using PEDs, and he's shrunk. But man, what a hitting coach! What a good guy to have as a hitting coach. One of the best hitters of our generation. Steroids or no steroids, the guy can rake.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, and I totally believe the fact that Barry Bonds, before he even went to the Giants, was a Hall of Famer.
Absolutely.
I mean, what he was doing with the Pirates was it was insane. He had speed, he had a little bit of power, he could hit for average, he was an excellent defender. He, like a Ken Griffey Jr. almost. I mean, just 5-tool player, done. And, you go to the Giants, and after a couple of years, he's hitting 70 jacks.
Yeah, which is ridiculous if you ask me. I miss the days of Mike Schmidt winning the home run title with 35, Yep.
No, for sure. I mean, it made it a lot more fun to watch, but they were all juiced and jacked, and that era seems to hopefully have passed on. So we'll move forward, right?
That absolutely. So you mentioned the Portland Mavericks here a little bit ago. Do you know that I love those old Portland Maverick uniforms. Do you know that color red actually has a name?
No, what is it?
Streetwalker Red.
Really?
Streetwalker Red. Now, I don't know if that was a Jim Swanson deal or a Frank Peters deal, but yeah, Streetwalker Red. I remember, so I've had Frank Peters and Jim Swanson on the show a couple of different times and talking about the old Portland Mavericks. So I remember Frank saying something about Streetwalker Red uniforms as he's reminiscing back to 1973 and 74.
Well, it was a little bit before my day, but watching that documentary, The Battered Bastards of Baseball, and reading about it and watching interviews and whatnot. I mean, hey, look, they were fun to watch, obviously, and they had some success. It's just too bad that, the organizations in baseball didn't like them.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of feel like I got screwed. My dad was in the military, so we're out traveling the world during that time. But man, what a fun time for baseball during those years in Portland. I got screwed and I missed out on it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I was fortunate enough. I saw, I want to say it was the old Portland Beavers, and it could have been 79, maybe 80, at the old Civic Stadium, and I can't remember who they played, but Vance Law was on the team back then.
Back when I think they were the Pirates.
Okay, an affiliate for the Pirates?
Yeah, and the Phillies were there, and the Pirates were there. So yeah, all the P's. The Padres were there.
Cool. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I remember my uncle got a foul ball from that game too.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know. It's interesting to kind of go back and kind of question why the Beavers didn't have more success, at least as far as fan turnout. I mean, it is AAA. Sometimes I think people get stuck in the mold that it's got to be Major League Baseball. You know?
I don't know. I think Portland is a baseball town, and Portland, it's okay to be a soccer town. It's okay to be a basketball town, and it's okay to be a baseball town. All of them can succeed in the city of Portland. And I honestly believe Portland is a huge baseball town, and the Portland Mavericks made it work. Back when they were low A, with the Northwest League, and early on, the Portland Beavers made it work. And, I don't know, maybe the stadium was too big. Maybe Civic was too big for them. I don't know. But I do see Portland coming back, baseball coming back to Portland. I don't necessarily think they're ready for a major league team as of yet, but who knows, down the road they might be.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think if you look at the sports that Portland doesn't have, the major league, all right, you've got MLS, you've got NBA, but I think out of the box, hockey would be the most logical with an NHL team due to the fact that Moda is there, ready to go. With that being said, I think a baseball stadium right down on the river in that industrial area would be fantastic. I personally would get season tickets. I don't care if I'm in the media or not. I would pay to go see a lot of baseball, a lot of Major League Baseball. And even if I think Portland itself as a city has to bypass at this point anything minor league. I mean, the Pickles are going to be starting here right out in Lentz Park. Right. Which, dude, I'll admit, I'm going to go to games. I mean, I'm 10, 15 minutes away. And it's not A-ball even, but I still think it'll be entertaining.
Absolutely.
I think Portland's got to swing for the fences.
I think you're right. And, it's, man, don't get me wrong. I love Hillsborough. I love going to Hillsborough games. I don't go to as many Hillsborough games as I do Salem Kaiser. Number one, I go for free when I go to Salem Kaiser. Thanks, guys. Number two, Hillsborough, man, I'm having a hard time getting in Hillsborough. They're not really, as part of the, kind of part of the media, even though I don't consider myself a radio guy or whatever, they kind of look down on me a little bit. But, I'm trying to crack in, trying to get into there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and let me know if you need some help, with that. I think anytime you can get some really good promotion, why not take it?
Absolutely. And, I will talk about Hillsborough baseball till I'm blue in the face. I do it with Salem Kaiser, and, it's all good, and we're in the same area, and, it's baseball, man.
Yeah, I mean, how far of a drive are you where you're at to Salem Kaiser games?
It's probably pretty close to even going for me to go into Hillsborough and going to Salem Kaiser.
Okay.
I cut across the Wheatland Ferry, so it takes me 25 minutes.
Well, that's all right.
You know,
that's not bad. That's about what it takes me. But that's why I'm really excited for the Pickles this season. It's a 10-minute drive over to the stadium, and if that. So I live close enough to where I probably could even hop on the bicycle and just ride over and catch some games.
Now, you also got the Gresham Grey Wolves making their first appearance this year out of the, the West Coast Baseball League there, Brian? So they play in with the Corvallis Knights and whatnot.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So
What?
Jerry Walker, the owner of the Volcanoes, has that new team up there in Gresham. And so they're that college wood bat league, that summer league. And they're just like the Portland Pickles, except for they're in different leagues.
Okay, all right. So it's kind of it's the same style as Portland Pickles, but it's just in a different league.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I think the Portland Pickles are playing. I'm not exactly sure what league they're in, but they're in with like the Klamath Falls Gyms.
Well, it's the WCL.
So they are. So then they are in with
WCL.
WCL, yeah. So they are in with the Pickles and whatnot. So yeah, no, it'll be interesting.
Okay.
When
did they become? I mean, I know it's WCL, but I still keep track of all this stuff. I must have missed this.
It was back in November, Brian, I think, is when the Walkers announced the Gresham Grey Wolves. So yeah, so it's been a couple of months.
Okay.
And
all right.
So. You get the talent level is pretty good. I mean, Corvallis is having their 10th anniversary season, and Tommy Hansen, who just passed away here not too long ago, former pitcher with the Braves and the Angels, he pitched with Corvallis. And who else there are a couple of other major leaguers. Andrew Susek with the Giants played with Corvallis Knights. Their manager Brooke Knight is a Australian Baseball League winning champion manager. I mean, he's won a couple of titles with the Perth Heat and whatnot.
Right.
And so, when it comes to baseball is 24/7 and it's year round for me. If it's, even in the winter leagues, I'll watch, Dominican baseball, the Venezuelan leagues.
Sure.
I'll follow the Australian Baseball League and it's pretty much all baseball. I don't follow the Blazers much, and I should though. The Blazers are having a hell of a year.
There's some international ball, some pretty good baseball being played. You mentioned Australia.
The Portland Pickles are in the Great West League.
The Great West League.
The Great West League. And so
The Medford Rogues.
So the Medford Rogues, Marysville, team out of Marysville, California.
Red Sox.
And so so they'll be a little bit different. I'm sure that we'll see the Pickles play Gresham in some probably scrimmage games and whatnot. But
some friendlies to steal a term from soccer.
There you go. Some friendlies. And so now you talked about being an Angels fan. Where did that come from? How did you become an Angels fan?
Are you an Angels guy?
I'm a baseball guy, and so I'm a Giants guy. I like them all.
All right, so when I was a little kid, I was a big Yankees fan. Everybody was. Reggie Jackson, bam, done. Well, when Reggie left, the Angels signed him, and that's really why I became an Angels fan. It wasn't necessarily because I didn't have a home baseball team living in Portland as a little kid, and I loved Reggie Jackson. So it was like it was a match made in heaven, and At that time, you had Reggie, you had Rod Carew, you had Bobby Gritch, Doug DeCince, Bob Boone. I mean, Donnie Moore, God rest his soul. You had some really special teams. And that, I mean, I just stuck with them. That became my favorite team. And 86 broke my heart, but 2002 really resurrected the soul. And I mean, and Sosha really had him back in contention a couple times, and that's really kind of how I became an Angels fan. I stuck with him, and that's my team. And I know geographically speaking, I should probably be a Mariners fan, but to be quite honest with you, that organization, given a couple years there with the big unit and A-Rod and Griffey Jr., they seem to be just a little bit vanilla for me, a little bland.
Right.
There just seems to be a lack of excitement within the organization. However, they did get former Halos GM Jerry DiPoto up there, which I'm interested to see where he's going to help take that franchise. But long story long, that's how I became a Halos guy.
So here's a question for you. So now, as an Angels fan, do you look at them as the California Angels or Anaheim Angels or the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim? How do you look at them?
I'm California.
Attaboy.
Attaboy. I don't think they ever should have rebranded them.
Right.
They should have always been. Granted, they did start out. A lot of people don't know this as the Los Angeles Angels.
Right.
I believe their expansion year.
Yeah.
But I think they should have just kept staying California Angels. That would have. It just fits.
I agree. And Bob Boone, by the way, Bob Boone is one cool dude. I had the chance. He was in Eugene for a promotion here this last season, and I had a chance to interview him. Did like a 5 to 6 minute interview with him, and then I was invited to his box and actually got to sit down and drink beer and eat nachos with him for 4 or 5 innings.
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool. Booney is a class act all the way. And
that's right. I remember he was down doing something. What was it with the
Eugene Emeralds?
With the Emeralds.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. That would have been sweet. One of the best defensive catchers of our generation.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, totally. He seems like a good guy. I've also heard Bobby Gritch is pretty cool. We've had, on our radio show, Rod Carew on before, which was pretty cool. Fred Lynn was nice. But yeah, there's a lot of cool guys out there that, that are willing to talk about their careers, talk about the game they love, talk about, the current state of baseball. And, fortunately, we get a lot of it. A lot of people think it's a long season, 162 games, but, I look at it as an opportunity to, kind of, root for your team and experience what I consider almost 3 seasons within one. You have the opening portion of the season, which is, to me, kind of the feeling out process.
Right.
And then you hit maybe, 3 weeks before All-Star break to about a month after All-Star break. And that's kind of, to me, the second season, which is, you found who you're going to run with, and you really start to implement your style that you're going to roll with for the season. And then that stretch run is go time, pedal to the metal. It's all or nothing. And you know your baseball team at that point. That's kind of, for me, the 3 seasons within the one regular season that is 162 games.
That's pretty good. I mean, you're absolutely right. And in between, that's baseball's. It's so long. It's a grind. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
because you're playing from February, you're playing until, you know, if you're in the World Series, you're playing until November now. And so, you know, you're absolutely right. You know, it's that middle section there, you know, with the All-Star break and whatnot, you know, is the grind part of it. And that's where you're positioning yourself in the standings, you know, gaining your footing and for the final run. And you know, it's kind of like a marathon. You know, I mean, literally, you know, you got your first part of the marathon, and then you got the middle part of your marathon, and then you got the kick. You know,
Yeah,
and so
exactly, dude.
so in your business, you have had the chance to interview quite a few guys. And so
Sure.
what I like to do is, don't get me wrong, I love interviewing the ball players, but I love finding the guys who have a passion for the game, who aren't ball players. Your Jim Breuer,
yeah.
your like comedian Jim Breuer, for example. You know,
Perfect example,
I
yeah.
got to sit down, and we had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he was a hoot. Big New York Mets honk, loves the game of baseball, and you had the chance to interview him as well.
Yeah, I've a couple times in different kind of incarnations throughout my radio career. A couple times on the rock side when I was at KUFO, and a couple times on the sports side. And the Jim Breuer is one of a kind.
Yes.
Just a flat out crazy dude who is funny, passionate, emotional. He wears it all on his sleeve, and colorful. He wraps you into kind of his emotion. He's got that kind of personality where, you know, when he went off on that Mets rant that went viral,
Right.
you know, he pulls you in and he makes you a Mets fan. And whether you want to be or not, that's the kind of infectious personality, at least what I found with a guy like Jim Breuer. And it could be baseball, it could be, you know, music, whatever he's talking about, he pulls you in and makes you a believer. Totally.
Do you are there? Can you give us a couple of other good examples of someone like Jim Breuer who you know found as a baseball fan and that doesn't play?
You know, yeah. You know, I think a guy that we've had on, Michael Rappaport.
Okay.
He is an actor, big New York fan, New York sports fan. Period. Basketball, baseball. He was another one of those guys where he grew up in New York, went to Yankee games, Mets, and he, you know, showed that passion during the interview. You know, and I think, you know, thinking back, because we've had so many baseball players on, and obviously they talk about their careers, but guys that are actors and comedians even, you know, you mentioned Jim Breuer, but also guys like, gosh, I'm trying to think off the top of my head who we've had in, and it usually seems, something Wolf. Scott, was it Scott Wolf? Actor, comedian? No. Well, I know Scott Wolf is an actor.
Party of Five.
And I'm trying to think. It's his. From Party of Five. It's his cousin, who we've had. Josh Wolf. He is a comedian. He's a writer. He's hilarious, and he's a big baseball guy too. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, these guys that do other things, whether it be acting or doing stand-up comedy or, you know, writing, if they're authors, if they are directors, they also need an outlet. And more times than not, it is sports. And it's what game I find what events did they either go view or participate in, athletic events, as a kid from like 8 to about 13, and whatever those events were when they were that age where it hit their wheelhouse, that's what they seemed to have the most passion for.
Right.
So for me it was baseball. You know, maybe, let's say, for instance, my co-host on the afternoons on 750 and 102.9 The Game, Fletcher Johnson, it was football.
Mm-hmm. He
always went to Duck games. So I think it really depends that time frame. We had a guy on, and obviously this isn't good if I can't remember anybody's name, but he was part of the Sabre family. John Thorne, I think, something Thorne.
Oh yeah, John Thorne.
John Thorne,
baseball historian.
Yeah, we had him on when I was producing John Canzano's radio show a few years ago. We had John Thorne on, and he brought that same topic up. What were you into when you were like 11? And it's that period in somebody's life, it seems to be their wheelhouse go-to spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where they develop love for something. And you find that with whatever you're doing, if you're a ditch digger or you're an NFL player or NBA or actor. If it's baseball, there was something about baseball at that point in time in their life that they still hold near and dear to their heart to this day.
John Thorne is a walking baseball encyclopedia. That man knows baseball, and we're talking history. We're talking baseball history at its origins. And I've attempted to get him on the show. We've been in talks with getting him on the show a couple different times, but man, he's so busy. Who else has been like your favorite? Do you have like a couple of favorite interviews that you have done that you were like, oh my God, I'm talking to blank?
Yeah, for me it was Rod Carew.
Okay.
I mean, it was one of my, he was one of my favorite players of all time. You talk baseball. I mean, living in Florida, I was a Braves fan for a while. My National League team is Braves, Angels, American, and that's kind of how it rolls. And growing up in Florida, I mean, it was WTBS. It was Braves every day. And at that point, Florida didn't have a team.
Right.
So I was a big Phil Niekro fan.
Okay.
And we had an opportunity to interview Phil, and man, what a storyteller. The dude just he had great insight. Special, really, really amazing interview. And you think back to Braves. Dale Murphy was great. He's awesome. He's got a tie to Portland and the Pacific Northwest, so he's always a lot of fun. Guys like that, I think legends in our game, and you really can't go wrong.
No.
Raleigh Fingers was colorful. And we also had an opportunity. I interviewed, Oakland A's. He lives in Joe Rudy.
Joe Rudy lives in Bend, the Bend area.
Yeah, or Pendleton, rather.
Okay. Is he in Pendleton now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pendleton, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry, Baker City. My bad. He lives in Baker City. You know who lives right outside of Bend is another one of his teammates.
Carney
I want to
Lansford.
say he was the catcher.
Tennis. Gene Tennis?
Yeah, Gene Tennis. He was good too.
Yeah, Carney Lansford, I believe, also lives in Baker City or just outside Baker City as well. What's up with Baker City?
Yeah, it's weird. I think a lot of those guys like to go hunting and just be alone.
Right.
So they choose a few of these areas to to chill out in. And if I'm not mistaken, Joe Rudy shared this story. I asked him, I said, why out there in Oregon? And he said during the off season, Gene Tennis got him to come up and go hunting.
Okay.
And so he liked the area. So that's how that worked out.
What I find, as I do Clubhouse chatter and as I do more shows, I find that the interviews that I like the most are the elder statesmen of baseball. And so we had George Genovese on the show, and George is he passed away here about a couple of months ago, but former Giant scout, former Dodger scout in baseball for 70 plus years. And, just listening to him flash back to 1945 and playing baseball. Another one of my favorites is Bobby Winkles. Very first head baseball coach at Arizona State, managed the Angels, A's and whatnot, and, lives down in Rancho Mirage. And I probably talk with Bobby maybe once a month. And then I get guys like, the guy who's going to be following you, Lenny Randall. Lenny, I'm going to be talking to Lenny, the most interesting man in baseball. He's in Sicily right now. He's putting on baseball camp and clinics. And, man, I do this because I love it. And, this is a hobby. You do it. I mean, that's your living.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
One of these days, Chop. One of these days, man. I hope I'm able to connect. I'm old though, and so there's no room for old guys like me. I understand, but
no, man. If you have a love to want to do something, you always should pursue it. That's my mantra.
Right.
Live your dream. And you're doing a little bit of it right now with baseball chatter, and it's cool. It's what I appreciate is the fact you're talking about all areas of the game, and you're not just confining it to maybe a couple of headlines and then having a discussion about that and rolling on.
Right.
I think that's important for people that love baseball to have that outlet available to them, and you provide that. You should be proud of it.
Well, thanks. All right, Chop, a couple more questions for you before we get rolling. So, what are you looking forward the most to this year's season? The Angels, Angels are in a tough division. You've got the Rangers and you've got the Astros. I think the Mariners are going to be okay, but I'm going to say the Angels will creep into that second or third spot this year in the division. I think it's the Astros division to lose. But baseball's a funny game, man. You got to stay healthy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm looking forward to. I am looking forward to the season. I'm looking forward to a healthy Angels team because they with the lack of depth in their organization, they can't afford a lot of injuries. They need another productive year out of Albert Pujols and that albatross of a contract that the Angels unfortunately gave him.
Right.
I look forward to seeing Mike Trout get his second Major League Baseball American League MVP. And I agree with you. I think it's the Astros division. I think the Halos end up coming in second and getting a wild card berth.
Oh, nice.
Just me being the optimist. But I'm also looking forward to, some Pickles baseball. I'm looking forward to Hops, Volcanoes baseball, enjoying kind of the local flavor when the sun comes out. And, we haven't even touched on it. I mean, I'm looking forward also to, three really good college area teams in Linfield. You've got Oregon State, all three outstanding collegiate baseball programs. And then, also as a fan, I'll probably make the trek up to Seattle and check out a few games. I'm a big music guy, and every year Bumbershoot, the music festival that goes on up in Seattle, is happening, and it just so happens it's coinciding with a Mariners homestand with the Angels. So
nice.
I'm already Yeah, I'm already making plans for that. I believe it's Labor Day weekend. So that's what's on the docket for CHOP.
So for all you music fans out there, if you haven't witnessed Bumbershoot, you need to. I mean, it is a spectacle. Big name bands. It's kind of, it's not on the scale of Coachella, but it's not too far off.
No, I would have to say it is a little bit smaller than Sasquatch.
Right.
So, you've got Coachella. I think Sasquatch is a little bit smaller than that, and then next tier would be Bumbershoot. But the cool thing is it's in the middle of Seattle. You have multiple stages down by the Space Needle. You've got comedy, you've got art, you've got music, and you got Mariners Angels. You can't go wrong.
There you go. CHOP, man. So let's make this happen this year. So I know we've talked about, hooking up, getting together at a ball game. Let's make it happen this year. We got Portland Pickles. We got the Volcanoes. Let's make it happen, man.
Let's do it. Consider it done.
Here's what we need to do. We need to do a show, you and I, producer Brian, at a Portland Pickle game this year. Find a little area off and sit in and do a show.
Hey, I'm totally game. So let's, we'll connect off air and we will make that happen. We'll look at the calendars and see what a good time frame would be.
Sounds good. CHOP, man, it's always a pleasure talking baseball, sports with you. Hey, make sure you give Judah a good swift kick in the ass for me. Tell him it's from Norm.
I will do.
Judah's a good dude. I used to umpire his baseball games when he was a kid.
Awesome, man. Hey, I'll give him a swift kick for you, and you guys have a good one, man. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks a lot, CHOP.
All right, dude.
All right. Once again, CHOP, radio mainstay in Portland, Oregon since 1997. He's living the dream that I want to do. I mean, he started as, a radio DJ, with, I can't remember his Dogface Boyd back in the late 90s. I don't know if you remember that, Brian, or not, back in the UFO days. And then he just, started on doing some sports gigs with Sports CHOP, and here he is today.
Sometimes the right place, right time, but you got to have talent too, and CHOP does have that talent.
CHOP does have
it's
talent.
Fun to listen to.
Absolutely. So I'm Norm. That is Brian. We are Clubhouse Chatter. We are sponsored by... Who are we sponsored by, Brian? Baseballism.com. If you like my hat, baseballisms.com. Baseball Dudes. I was looking for a base by pros, but baseballdudes.com. Chris Gazelle up there in Vancouver, Washington. To be the best, you must train like the best. Check them out, baseballdudes.com. Mitch Canham, skipper Mitch Canham, Clinton Lumberjacks. Building an athlete sports education, basebypros.com. His dad, Mark Canham, does our shirts for Clubhouse Chatter. If you would like to order one, get in touch with me. And we stream live on yamhilltoday.com every week. Check us out, yamhilltoday.com. Hey, we're looking for sponsors. If you want to sponsor the show, shoot me an email, normbo18@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter, Clubhouse Chatter, 1T. We're also on MajorLeagueBaseball.com blogs. We're on iTunes, Facebook. You can find us on YouTube. Check us out. I'm Norm Bryan. Hey, we got Lenny Randall coming on at 11. You don't want to miss Lenny. Thanks for watching.